What's up, chat? Oh, camera's not fucked up.
Resurgence. Survive the timer to secure redeployment. Earn points to speed up the countdown.
Dude.
Back on the field.
Get ready. You're redeploying.
Adding armor. Head armor's gone. One more mag.
Enemy dropping into the AO.
Reloading.
Enemy soldier incoming.
Armor's gone.
Be advised, there's an enemy squad gunning for you.
Loading fresh mag. Head armor's gone. Final mag. Reloading.
Napalm strike standing by.
Gas is moving. Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies.
Switching mags.
Yeah, I heard someone. Another one.
Loading fresh mag. They got me. Adding armor.
Watch this.
Loadout drop heading your way. Enemy hunters were taken out. You're in the clear.
Redeployed and ready for
Returning you
business.
to the front. Earn this. 25 remaining.
Napalm strike ready for delivery.
Napalm strike requested on my mark.
Gascon 4-9 are over mission area. Napalm drop. Target area is burning. Gascon 4-9 deconflicting.
Watch out! Reloading. Adding armor.
Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies. Got gas moving in.
Loading fresh mag. I'm under fire.
Enemy dropping into the AO.
Back on the field.
Time for vengeance. You're redeploying.
They got me.
Seriously.
Adding
Ooh.
armor. Lobbing pinpoint grenade. Break time's over. I'm under fire. Tactical identified. Adding armor. Loading fresh mags.
Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies.
Adding armor. Adding armor. Reloading.
You've got a loadout drop inbound.
Tactical identified. Watch out.
What? Dude, seriously?
Enemy tactical incoming. Alpha armor broken. Reloading. Redeployed and
Back
ready for
on
business.
station. Go get after it.
Adding armor. Adding armor.
Care package on standby.
Commence care package delivery.
Friendly loadout drops on the way.
I'm under fire. Adding armor.
What? Dude, get off the diesel, eh?
Switching mags. Hostile armor broken. Changing mags.
Yeah, I'm reported just for playing like that.
Back on the field.
Stand by for redeployment.
Dude, like, wow. Kids are probably so wussified.
points you earn, the faster that clock ticks. Enemy dropping into the AO.
Oh.
Switching mags. Loading fresh mag.
Precision airstrike ready
Adding
for
armor.
tasking.
That could have. Yeah. Shotgun didn't shoot.
Redeployed and ready for business.
Go get your revenge.
Fuck me.
Adding armor.
You've got a loadout drop inbound.
Dude, why?
Back on the
You're
field.
getting another chance. Weapons free.
Adding armor.
You're losing ground. Move it.
Watch out. Adding armor.
Hostile airstrike incoming.
Dude! You gotta be joking.
Redeployed and ready for business.
You're redeploying. Friendly loadout drops on the way.
These games are going awful tonight. Dude, why are you there?
Yourself off, regroup, and
Like, fuck, dude.
resurgence. Survive the time and to secure redeployment. All points speed up the countdown. Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies. Marking hostile.
Of course he doesn't run out of ammo.
Back on the field.
Stand by for redeployment.
I'm under fire. Adding armor.
But this game's freaking bullcrap tonight. I don't add people on Discord. Appreciate the follow. So
Survive the countdown to earn redeployment. Secure kill. Enemy dropping into the AO. Reinforcing armor.
Dude. This game's straight capping tonight, bro.
Reinforcing armor.
LDBR salvo ready for launch.
Your sense, when do you get your load out of a thing like that? But
Gas is inbound. Let's get back in. Returning you to the front. Earn this. Reinforcing armor.
you can't be serious, right, bro?
Switching mags. Inserting armor.
Ready for action. Back on station. Go get after it. Precision airstrike standing by. Loadout drop headed your way. Let's get back in it. Go get your revenge. Twenty-five are still active in the AO. Reinforcing order. Incoming fire! Reinforce tracker on me. Enemy soldier incoming.
But you can't be serious.
Reinforcing armor. Swapping mags. Reinforcing armor. There goes the rope. Precision airstrike ready
Loading
for
new
target.
mag.
Dude.
Armor. They almost had me. moving.
Reinforcing armor. Absorb their armor. They're on me.
You gotta be joking! Dude, there's just no way.
Ready. You're redeploying. Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies.
Incoming. Absorb their armor. Changing mags. Not this time. Swapping mags. Reinforcing armor.
Precision airstrike available.
Loading new mag. Reinforcing armor. Rushing close air support.
Enemies
You
soldiers
can't make this crap up, chat, huh?
Go get your revenge.
Incoming fire. Reinforcing armor. Changing mag.
Resurgence window is ending. Watch your six.
Sm-
Sending Semtex.
Dude! You can't make this up, chat. Look at this.
There goes their armor. Incoming fire.
Ready for
Time
action.
for vengeance. You're redeploying.
Reinforcing armor.
Well, dude.
Friendly loadout drops on the way.
There goes their armor. They're on me. Swapping mag. Sighted. Reinforcing armor. UAV standing by. Authorizing UAV mission.
Resurgence is close. No more second chances.
Loading new mag. Reinforcing armor.
Mission timeline expired. UAV exiting the AO.
We're in the top
Swapping
10.
mags.
Keep knocking them down. Gas is inbound.
Incoming fire. Reinforcing armor.
Gas moving in. Your squad's in the top 5.
Loading new mag.
You're losing ground. Moving. Enemy precision airstrike. Find cover. You're in the top 3. Don't let up now. Gas is inbound. Last chance, soldier. Kill or be killed. Only 2 left.
No, dude, hit the dang stem.
Valiant effort. Keep your head up.
Enemy
Return to
assault
base
pack.
to debrief. Watch the skies.
Napalm strike ready for delivery.
Loading new mag. Enemy dropping into the AO. Your objective's simple. Eliminate all bounty targets. Loadout drop headed your way. Gas is closing in.
Cast napalm strike on transmitted cores.
Raider inbound.
Changing mag.
Raider is Winchester, returning to base. Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies.
Swapping mag. There goes their armor. There goes their armor. Changing mag. Let's get
You're
back
getting
in.
another chance. Weapons free.
Reinforcing armor. Loading new mag.
Only 25
Reinforcing armor.
left. Keep up the good work. Bounty targets are up. Get after them.
There goes
Moving.
Swapping mags. There goes their armor. I'm hit. Reinforcing armor. Changing mags. They're on me. Reinforcing armor. Loading new mag.
Get ready. Surgeon's window is about to close. We lost track of the bounty target. Contract failed.
Frag thrown. Tossing frag.
You're losing ground. Moving.
Ready frag.
Back on station. Go get after it.
Incoming fire. Reinforcing armor. Swapping mags. Reinforcing armor. Let's get
Get
back in
ready.
it.
You're redeploying. Be advised, Resurgence is no longer active. This is for keeps.
Reinforcing armor.
Positive ID on the bounty targets.
Reinforcing
Hunt them
armor.
down.
Changing mags.
You've made it to the top 10. Less than 10 were still standing. The enemy took that one, but we'll get them back.
Reinforcing armor.
Be advised, an enemy squad is tracking your location.
They almost had me.
Loadout drop headed your way.
There goes their armor. They're on me. Loading new mag. Swapping mags.
You've got gas moving in. Enemy dropping into the AO.
I'm hit. Injecting stim.
Dude, let me.
Yeah, not this time. Did it myself.
Enemies are
packs up.
dropping into the area. Watch the skies.
Reinforcing armor.
Are left. Stay sharp out there.
There's no way, bro.
Loadout drop inbound. Contract was compromised. Stand down.
Dude, no.
Ready.
Stand by for redeployment.
This game is so stupid.
Reinforcing armor.
This game's a joke, bro.
Let's get back in it.
Returning you to the front. Earn this.
There goes their armor. Reinforcing armor. They're on me. Reinforcing armor.
Nah, this kid's cheating.
Loading.
Ready for action.
Go get your revenge.
They almost had me.
Enemy dropping into the AR.
Get me out of here, bro. Like, I'm switching to reactions chat. BOB.
Body wash drying you out. You know it.
In the Appalachian Mountains, there are rules you just don't break. These are chilling secrets and ancient warnings. Welcome to Appalachia, where the rules keep you alive. Don't forget to subscribe for more content, and let's get into it.
Mima's tips to surviving in Appalachia. Always exit out the same door that you came in. And two things of great importance. First, should someone pass away at home, is to stop.
Deep in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, something ancient lingers. Whispers in the fog, footsteps on empty trails, and shadows that don't belong. These are 3 haunted mysteries buried in Appalachia's past and still haunting its present. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's take a look.
My grandpa grew up in eastern Tennessee during the 1920s. He loved to talk about the strange things that he had seen in these hills, living miles from the nearest town. Even with all their beauty, there's a long history of dangerous and unexplainable events that have happened here. Now, he wasn't book learned, but he was educated in the ways of these mountains. He knew every plant, tree. He could tell the weather by reading the animals of the forest. The only book he cared to read was the Bible, and he had read it front to back numerous times until the pages were barely hanging on. One night, as we sat on the porch on an autumn night, just like this, Papa told me a story he had never shared with anyone before, because as he said, I don't want to breathe life into this creature again. What scares me the most about this story is that it happened on the very same road which I live today. You see, we lived in a holler which was basically a dead-end road with only a few houses on it. Even today, there aren't any street lights, and at night, it can become an eerie place. Now, Papa loved to walk that dark road at night when he would visit family that lived about a quarter mile up the road. This place was surrounded by a dense forest on each side, so there was little to no light coming in from the moon. Anyway, one night he decided to go home after spending the whole afternoon with Uncle Bobby and his kin. It was already pitch black outside, but that didn't bother him in the slightest. He had done it many times before and felt perfectly safe walking down this mountain road.
Okay, Richardson, the holidays are done.
We thought so too, but then Verizon just gave us their best deal.
4 new
Everybody who lived back in this holler was kin in one way or another, and he had no reason to be afraid. Plus, it was in the dead of winter, and he didn't have to worry about coming across a mama bear or her cubs.
Chat.
He told Uncle Bobby, "I'll see you next time," and he started down this shadowy road. For some reason, when the snow is falling in the winter, it gets eerily quiet in these mountains. He kept walking with his hands in his coat pocket and his eyes glued down to his feet to keep the cold air from burning his face. It was so dark outside that he could barely see a few steps in front of him. As he was walking, he looked up from his feet to glance up the road when he saw something in the distance. Now, it looked like a figure, but it was too big and stocky to be a human, and it walked with a hunch. Papa couldn't make out any clothes or any features through the falling snow. He couldn't believe what he saw, so he squinted and strained his eyes and took another look. But whatever it was still there, walking in front of him. It didn't make a sound when it walked, and it sent chills up his spine. Papa decided to stop and let whatever it was go on down the road until it was out of sight. But when Papa stopped, so did the shadowy figure. His heart began to pound, and fear rushed through him. What the hell is that thing? Why didn't I see it when I first started walking down the road that night? Papa started walking slower to see if it would move on, and sure enough, the figure started walking slowly too, step for step with Papa. Now, they were only about 200 yards from Papa's house, which was a relief, but it also terrified him because he worried it might follow him home. Papa stopped again and he hid in the trees on the side of the road, watching to see if the figure would leave. But it just stopped and didn't move at all. All you could hear was the snow falling. Otherwise, it was dead silence. How did this thing know his every move? That's it. Papa decided to make a run for it, so he gathered up his courage and he began running towards his house. When he looked up, the shadowy figure was floating above the ground effortlessly, and even at a faster pace. Papa's heart was beating out of his chest. I just gotta get to my gun inside of the house, he thought, running as fast as he could. Finally, when he reached the split in the dirt road, he ran up the right side to his cabin. As soon as he got to the door, he looked back and he saw the shadowy figure going up the road on the left towards old man Jim Johnson's house. Papa locked the cabin door and looked out the windows, but he never saw it again. Am I losing my mind, he thought. Maybe I never saw anything at all. So he just tried to brush the whole thing off to exhaustion from chopping firewood all day. So he settled in for the night with his shotgun close by his bed that night.
So one night, like 10 years ago, Dee and her friends decided to get together and catch up. They hadn't seen each other in several years at this point, and they were all on very different life paths. When they were younger, they loved exploring old abandoned houses and buildings out in the woods. So in the group chat, they deemed it was only fitting that they go explore an old abandoned building. They picked one of their old favorite places to go explore. Just to clear up any prejudgment, they weren't under the influence of anything. So this building that they went to has had multiple uses and dates back to the 1800s. It's been a hospital with a morgue, a boarding school for children and adults with disabilities, an asylum for criminally insane people, and a residential home for the elderly. Its history runs deep. So this night they drive 3 hours to get there. By the time they get there, it's already midnight and super dark. This building sits on top of a hill surrounded by woods and a river flowing beside it. The nearest house is a farm, which is like a 45-minute drive away. They park their car on the side of the road and start walking up the path to the top of the hill. They're all giggling and nervous and running on adrenaline. They feel like the high school girls that they once were. The hole in the fence that they used to use is still there, so they climb through it and start approaching the building. It's more beaten up than what they remember, but it had been like 10 years since they'd been there. Their first stop was a water tower. Climbed the stairs to the top to scope out the area, and as far as they could see, nobody was around. They talked about all the memories they'd made there and how one of the friends had even met her husband there. They decided the morgue and the chapel were the last places that they would go because it was quicker to get back to the car from there. So they walked to the main building and they climbed through a broken window. This led to a massive hall with a serving hatch at the end of it. They always assumed it was a dining room because it was just off of the kitchen. The hall was big, empty, cold, and dark, but nothing scary or eventful happened. They explored the building, and apart from a few floors that had fallen in, it was exactly how they remembered it. Aside from one room. This room was in a separate building that had smoke damage everywhere. Walls burnt down, windows smashed, melted plastic. They remembered this is the room that one of their friends had stepped on a piece of wood and had a nail go through his foot, snapped while in his foot, and he had to have surgery to remove the nail. One of Dee's friends explained that she had a very sick feeling coming over her. She couldn't explain what it was, but she just didn't feel right. They carried on, and as they approached the part of the building that they remembered having individual rooms, which they always assumed were bedrooms, something just didn't seem right. It wasn't quite the way they remembered. All of the rooms had been burnt with the doors open. All the furniture was still left inside, but was distorted by the fire. As they walked further down the hallway, there was one room with the door closed. It had a thin window on the door, and they tried to open it, but the door was locked. Now, the last time they had been here, none of the doors were locked, and all the rooms had been fire damaged. But as they were looking through the window on this door, the room was made up. It was nice, like as if somebody was sleeping in there. I mean, the bed was made, and everything was perfectly intact. It had no fire damage like the rest of the building, but remember, this wasn't like that the last time they were there. Bit of a mental image, this room was 4 floors up. The only access to it was via stairs. Walk on the outside of the door was melted, and the door was heavily damaged by the fire. The room was stood still in time. This place was miles away from anywhere. She didn't think that this is a place that a homeless person would go. They walked around some more. Nothing else eventful happened aside from just being confused about that weird room. That was until they approached the morgue. The building smaller than the rest, it only had 1 floor and 1 big stained glass window. As you walk in, there's a little hallway with two heavy wooden arch doors that were left slightly open, just enough to squeeze through. When they walked in, the air felt thick. There was a refrigerator with some of the trolleys pulled out, which is like where they kept the bodies. Out of all the buildings in this place, this was the only one that looked like it was cleaned regularly. Unlike the other rooms, this one wasn't smashed up. There wasn't trash lining the floors, and there was only a little bit of graffiti. They looked around, stayed for about 15 minutes, and then they turned to leave. As they did that, they heard what sounded like one of the trolleys moving, and they all froze. None of them knew what to do, and that second, the entire world stood silent. He said none of them were even breathing or moving. She remembers reaching for her friend's hand and looking at her, and she just had the most petrified look on her face. They knew the only way out was the two heavy wooden doors, and that only one person could go through at a time. They left as fast as they could through the doors, but they made sure to hold hands the entire time. They didn't let go of each other. As they walked towards the main doors to exit, they heard what sounded like a laugh. A deep, long laugh. They ran out the main door far enough away where they wouldn't be seen, but close enough where they could still see the doors. There was nothing. No one. They decided they'd leave, go back to the car, and find a McDonald's for a coffee. But to get back to the car, they had to walk past that building. As they made their way past the building, they could hear the sound of the trolleys moving around erratically and what sounded like somebody mumbling to themselves. They walked fast but didn't run in case it brought attention to themselves. They didn't know what was in there, but they knew it wasn't a person because they had just been in there and not a soul was in there. As they get further away from the building, they stop and look back, and in that big stained glass window, they seen a bright light shining. When they were in there, the only lights that were on were their 4 lights. They watched shadows moving around behind the light for a few seconds, and then they left. As they made their way closer to the car, they heard what sounded like a woman quietly crying. They looked around but couldn't see anyone. By this time, it was like 3:45 a.m. As they walked, it seemed like they were getting closer to the crying, but nobody was around. At one point, the crying stopped. The silence was deafening. No wind, no bugs, no animals, no birds crying, nothing. They got to the gap in the fence knowing that they'd have about a 25-minute walk through the woods till they made it to their car. While they'd done this walk many times before, they had never felt like this. They had explored this place so many times and had never experienced anything day or night. As they walked through the woods, the world came back to life. The wind, the animals, the insects, and the crying. Only now, the crying sounded like it was moving, and fast, with the sound of rustling. This was a cold winter, so the ground was frozen. The movement sounded like it had slowed to a walking pace, almost parallel. They started walking faster, and the sound of the crying and walking got faster too. They made sure that their phones were 100% charged before they got out of the car. With zero cell service, they knew they weren't too far from the car whenever all of a sudden all 4 of their phones died, which means all of their lights went out. Even though they knew that they had all charged their phones. We continued walking back to the car, but it felt like it took forever. At some point, the crying and rustling stopped. They were so freaked out they couldn't really remember when it stopped. They all kept trying to turn their phones back on, but they weren't coming back on. So they finally made it back to where they had left the car, and the car wasn't there. Which makes no sense because they knew the road and they knew where they had left the car. So they walked down the road some and they still couldn't find the car, so they decided to turn around and walk back, and the car was there where they thought they had left it originally, where it just wasn't at, you know? They ran to get in the car when they noticed something that wasn't there before. A baby's car seat was left laying on the ground beside the driver's door. Identical to the seat that my friend used for her 8-month-old.
Okay, that's
The one she
creepy.
took out of the car back at her house. So identical, it had the same soft plushy toy attached to the bar. They jumped in the car and locked the doors. Right as they started the engine, they heard a woman screaming, crying, "My baby, my baby, my baby, you took my baby." And as they pulled away, there was a woman standing there on the corner watching them. Their friend who was driving sped up and didn't stop. They made it on the highway and stopped at the next gas station. They all just needed a breather, so they went in and got a coffee. At this point, it was 6:10 a.m. A 25-minute walk through the woods really took a lot longer than 25 minutes. We're all still just trying to process what just happened, when a group of people walked in handing out flyers for a missing woman and baby. The woman they had saw had a striking resemblance to the woman in this picture, but they couldn't be sure. The sun was coming up and they were all really confused, not to mention terrified and traumatized. 7 weeks later, it was still on all of their minds. They started searching social media to see if they could find any posts about this missing woman and baby. One post sent Dee down a rabbit hole. There was a lady that looked like her friend that had an 8-month-old little boy. The woman who was missing had lost her mom 3 days before giving birth and was suffering from postpartum psychosis. Her body and her baby were found 2 days after their visit at the same woods around the same building. She had taken her own life, but her baby was found living and he was fine. He was safe. He was found just past where they had seen the lady standing in the road. They've carried guilt and shame all of these years for not helping in the situation. All they know is whatever happened in the morgue is something that they still can't explain. Was it the same woman following them? Was she the person they seen on the road? Where did their car go when it went missing? How did the baby car seat just magically appear? There's a lot of questions they think that they may never have the answers to.
I used to do house calls in the hills of the Appalachian Mountains. Many of my patients lived off the grid, and many times didn't have running water or electricity. I often wouldn't have cell phone service or GPS due to location of where I was. I would be using the compass in my car and a map to navigate to my patients' homes. I was thinking of this story all day because of the time of year. When I came to this person's home, it was the fall, and I remember because it was just the time of year where the leaves were beginning to change color, and this person's home was in the middle of a clearing, like surrounded by some of the most beautiful trees and all the reds and oranges, and the home looked like it used to be a church or maybe like a chapel. Very old building, brick building, and then it had like some stained glass windows in it, and I remember it was just breathtakingly beautiful. And it had the most storybook wraparound porch. Like, I envied this porch, right? So I walk onto this beautiful porch. It has like the baskets hanging like you see in the Hallmark movies, and I knock on the door, and I'm greeted by actually someone that's pretty close to my age. And we just get to talking right away before I'm even sitting down in the house, and we get along so well, and I'm having such a nice time. So I have a seat, and they offer me something to drink, and I'm like, oh gosh, you know, I'm totally fine. I brought my little Coke Zero with me, so I appreciate it, but I'm all right. And at that time, you know, where I'm seated in the main room, you can see the kitchen straight ahead, and then there's a doorway that goes into like the rest of the house, which I have not seen. At this time, I see someone walk out of the doorway and just stand, like in the room. And I glanced over because at first I was like, that's odd. I swear I thought I saw something move over there. And I glanced over, and there's just like a really tall, like figure of a man. And it caught me so off guard. It wasn't like I saw a shadow or I said, no, it looked like a man was just standing there. And I'm like fixed upon it for a second. Like I'm staring at it for a second because it was just so bold in its movement. It just stood like right in front of me in the room. And the patient goes, do you see that? And I was like, yeah, girl, I don't know. I'm like, your house is haunted. Now, I have, again, always adopted the just ignore it like it's not happening sort of vibe. I don't want to acknowledge it. I don't want to deal with it. I don't even want to be here with it. Like, my number one instinct is to just ignore it, get through the visit as professionally as possible. But this person, we were, like I said, we were just talking and having a very nice visit, and I felt comfortable enough saying, like, do you see that too? Like, your house is, it is haunted. I'm feeling kind of crazy at this point, right? I'm like, this person might look at me and be like, yeah, you're nuts.
Restless partner? We can match you with a Tempur-Pedic that can help. Mattress Firm, we make sleep easy.
Movado is synonymous with modern design. Inspired by the sun at high noon.
And before she can even say anything else, I see that there's like a child walking through the doorway of the kitchen. And I'm like, listen, I'm like, I could be totally wrong, but I see there's a man there, and I think there's like either a little person or like a child-sized person that just walked through the kitchen. And this person very nonchalant was like, oh yeah, no, this used to be like a gathering area, like a religious gathering area, and it is just full of like spirits. And I'm like, okay, well, you should probably do something about that, like sort that out, like do something about it. And she was like, no, none of this really bothers me other than the nun that's in the basement that watches us shower in the downstairs shower. Ma'am, nothing about that sounds like okay. That actually sounds awful. And I asked her, I'm like, you know, it's interesting that you see these things. I don't think I've ever met anyone that, in my opinion, would see things as vividly as I do. So I asked her to like kind of describe, and like, you know, when you see the thing you said, do you see it? I said, what does it look like to you? And she's like, oh, it's a very tall man. And I was like, yes, Like, it is a very tall man. And in the kitchen, she's like, oh yeah, it's like, it's a little girl, actually. I'm like, God. Yeah. So this lady's house was just chock full of spirits. And she's like, they don't bother me. They don't do anything. They just carry along and do their thing, and I carry along and do my thing. I just don't use the downstairs shower because the nun freaks me out. And she's like, it's just all good. It was very difficult to do that visit. The place kind of gave me like the weird vibe creeps, and the guy that was standing in the sitting room where we were kind of kept just like appearing and then walking back out of the room, and then like appearing and walking back out of the room, and he looked kind of dead and anxious, which was making me feel kind of anxious. But other than that, it was a very chill visit. It was a very nice visit. Me and the patient got along famously. Nothing followed me home.
If you ever felt the chill of something watching you in the woods, you're not alone. Don't forget to subscribe and share your own encounter in the comments below.
Okay,
The
we'll
mountains
do.
are watching.
What's on?
Finding the things you and your family need to be well is kind of a big deal. Finding ways to save on those things isn't.
Give me a second, chat.
We are heading deep into the Appalachian Mountains, one of the most active and haunted regions in the United States. The paranormal in Appalachia is far more real than most people realize. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's take a look.
Have you ever seen a devil in an Appalachian cemetery? Let me show you. This is my 5th great-grandfather's brother, and here's his grandson. Now pay attention to his parents, Robert and Evelina Dickinson. Here's Evelina's grave. Her name is intentionally spelled wrong. Consort was similar to the word used today to shame women that starts with a W. Caleb Hawkins was actually her husband. He hated her, and he had this stone made to shame her for eternity. Imagine going to a 70-year-old woman's funeral and having to look at this stone while she's buried beneath it. He wanted her to hang her head down in shame, even in the grave. Sleep on, dear Evelyn, and take that rest. God called thee home, for it was best. Here lies the little devil, Caleb Hawkins. This past spring there was a bad storm, and the whole front of his stone fell off, erasing whatever importance he thought he had. The mountains have a way of setting things right, even if it took 148 years. Evelina finally paid him back.
There was one other time where I had the literal crap scared out of me so bad that the blood in my veins turned ice cold. And that was the time when me and my friends, we had this little ghost hunting group. We would go to homes, businesses, schools, cemeteries, you name it. We went and done ghost hunting. And this night that we were going to this specific cemetery, it was like an unusual night. I remember thinking that it was during the cold months, but it was like unusually warm, and we were having like an electrical storm that night. So it was like really great temperature for ghost hunting, because it was like lightning, just one right after the other, after the other, after the other. The sky just lit up. It was dry, and it was really charged. You know what I'm saying? You had that electrical charge to the air. So it's dark. We go to this cemetery. We're out there. We had just got out of the cars. We start walking around. We have our flashlights, but we try to keep our flashlights off, and we try not to make any noise. We just have our recorders going, and we're being really still. And I'm looking around, and the lightning's flashing, when all of a sudden it flashed so fast. It was there and it was gone, because the lightning's like flash, 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 flash. It was there and it was gone, and it was about 4 foot tall, snow freaking white from top to bottom. It had really long arms, like from shoulder to the ground arms. I saw the head, and the torso, the arms, solid white, and it was gone in an instant. And I'm looking in the same direction, And I get so scared. Like, there's something in me. And we don't get scared. We usually giggle and laugh, and, we end up having too much fun, and we end up ruining our audio. But I was literally scared freaking shitless at this thing, and did not want to be in this cemetery anymore. So I tell them, I'm like, I just saw something. I tell them what I see. So we all turn our flashlights on, and we're looking at all the tombstones, trying to see if anything resembled that. And it was actually standing kind of behind a tombstone. And I got goosebumps just thinking about it. I get uneasy thinking about it. It's just this feeling in my gut. Oh, God. And, we went to many different places where, like, we'd hear things, we'd see things, we got audio, we got all kinds of good stuff. I got audio in the house that I was living in, seen things in the house that I was living in. Everybody experienced something, My husband at the time was a skeptic. He ended up becoming more of a believer after all this stuff. We had one guy got scratched on his back while he was standing there. Like, my husband and my friend's husband kind of was like the skeptics, and they would taunt the spirits or whatever.
Oh, yeah, that's smart.
And trust me, I don't agree with doing this anymore. I have become a person who believes that there are things that we don't understand, and that the Bible says you are not supposed to mess with them, and I think we should listen. Why are we as people so dumb and so curious and so nosy and greedy that we have to do things that we know could be bad?
My eyes and ears have been hacked.
I chat the tip for tonight. We'll have later on today.